Hi everyone, thank you for joining me once again. Today we're going to talk about the worship of the moon and how it is connected to different places in the desert within the Levant. We spoke about the god of the moon god, when we talked about Nikal, a fertility and spring goddess that married the moon in the Phoenician mythology and also the Canaanite one. The god of the moon was very important in different pantheons around the Levant. It was called Sin or Yereach within the Canaanite and the Phoenician mythology. Within the Mesopotamian one, sometimes they refer to him as Nana. And the worship of this god was very prominent within deserts. For example, Sinai Desert, the one that we know from the story of the Exodus, could be named after Sin, the god of the moon. There's also a dry river within the desert in Israel called Zin, could also be named after Sin, the god of the moon. And we want to ask why this worship of this god is so important within the realm of the desert. The desert is a dangerous place in ancient times. Even today, when you walk around the desert, you're usually by yourself. When you are wandering in different places of the desert, it's very difficult to do so during the day because of the heat. So sometimes you move during the night, but the nights are dangerous. You could be meeting dangerous people. Nature is way more powerful than you do, and you need to rely on something which is bigger than you. And sometimes this thing is the moon. It is always there. It appears every night. It helps you to navigate, to understand where you are and where you are going. And also it helps you to understand when the seasons are changing. Until today, in Judaism, you follow the lunar calendar because it seeped into Jewish culture. And until today, most of the Jewish holidays are being celebrated either in the time of the full moon or when there's a new moon that is starting to rise again. Also, as an act of faith, you need someone to rely on that can see everything during the night. And this someone is the moon and the god of the moon, which is located in the moon or is the moon himself. We also know that when the moon is setting down and dawn is about to appear, you can find dew water on the plants across the desert. In an environment which is so hard to locate food and to grow food, those waters that remain after the moon is setting are very important because this will allow us to eat. This is the crops, and this is also the basis for mythologies that combine the god of the moon and goddesses of fertility such as Nikal. In places like Jericho, which in Hebrew we pronounce Jericho, probably named after Yereach, the moon, the name in Hebrew, you can find a megalithic structure in the shape of a tower. This is how we call it. Now, obviously it's not a tower as we know it, but it's round and it is really built up high comparing to other structures in ancient times. This was probably a place that was used to measure different movements in the sky of stars and the moon, and the whole city that was built around it was dedicated to the worship of the moon god. Sometimes they also used the way the shade of the mountains around it fell on this tower to understand the time of the year and the movements within the sky. In a later Jewish midrash, a legend, there's a conversation between God and the moon that God is instructing the moon to change the different phases within the month. And maybe this is an attempt to actually step away from ancient pantheon into one divinity that is ordering the different powers of nature what to do. And in Hebrew and Jewish culture until today, the crescent of the moon is considered to be male, but the full moon is a female connected to the Shekinah, the feminine manifestation in Jewish mysticism. There is a blessing called the blessing of the moon that you say from the beginning of the month up until the moon is full, when you're encouraging the moon to keep on rising. Do you know any other interesting moon gods from around the world or interesting stories connected to the moon? Do share them with us. I'll be more than happy to hear them. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.